About 4 years ago, I got a phone call. It was somebody that was upset because they heard that I'd closed a piece of property and they were surveying the property and they have no idea what they're talking about. What had happened is Sam, the seller, came to Charlotte and he found these two properties and they were sitting right next to each other. And he did some detective work, got the name of the owner, got a fake ID in the name of the owner, opened two bank accounts at one of our banks, and let them season for about a year. And then he listed them for sale. And one of my clients bought it. And come to find out, Sam, the seller, really wasn't the owner of the property. But I had a beautiful Texas driver's license. I had everything done, and we still got hit to the tune of about $600,000.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Keys to Real Estate. I'm your host, Mary Schuster. Well, my guest today went down a rabbit hole of sorts after he got caught with a fake ID presented at a closing. And he took it upon himself to learn all there is to know about how to properly validate both the older driver's licenses and the newer driver's licenses, as well as passports and other forms of ID. And he's bringing it here today for you to help you keep some of that liability out of your business. He's got some real tips and tricks of how to protect yourself the old-fashioned way, the physical way. So please enjoy this conversation meant to help you protect your operations. Please share it with all of the notaries on your staff or your third-party notaries that you work with so that we can help make out fraud. Please enjoy this conversation with my guest, Jamie.kosofsky, who is founder of Brady & Kosofsky. The presenting sponsor for this season of Keys to Real Estate is Closing Lock. Working in title, do you ever feel like you've got a target on your back? Every year, $2 trillion moves in and out of escrow accounts in the United States. Fraudsters are watching and waiting for one wrong click, one unsecured email, just one oversight. And then just like that, your client's life savings are gone. That's where Closing Lock comes in. Closing Lock provides title companies a secure, all-in-one platform to prevent fraud, protect funds, and streamline closings. Over 1 million home sales have closed safely without incident in Closing Lock. The fraudsters only have to be right once. Title companies have to be right every time. Closing Lock has your back. Visit closinglock.com today to learn more. Jamie.Kosofsky, welcome to Keys to Real Estate.
Thank you, Mary. It's good to be here.
Well, I'm hoping that today's episode is something that everyone who has anybody either in their shop notarizing or using third-party notaries will share this information and send it around, because there's so much fraud going on out there today. Everybody's working so hard to fight it. There are some great technologies out there to help, but there's also some good old-fashioned free detective work that people can be doing. And I think it's important to include that in their toolkit of things to handle. So you graciously agreed to come on today. You have done a lot of investigation about IDs, what makes a good one, what makes a bad one, how to tell them apart. And I just think that's such important information. So thanks for coming on to share it with everybody.
Thanks.
So how'd you get started on this? How did you get down this rabbit hole?
So about 4 years ago, after one of the Jewish holidays, I got a phone call, and it was somebody that was upset because they heard that I'd closed a piece of property and they were surveying the property and they have no idea what they're talking about. And what had happened is Sam, the seller, had came to Charlotte and he found these two properties and they were sitting right next to each other. And he did some detective work, got the name of the owner, got a fake ID in the name of the owner, opened two bank accounts at one of our banks, and let them season for about a year. And then he listed them for sale, and one of my clients bought it. And come to find out, Sam, the seller, really wasn't the owner of the property. But I had a beautiful Texas driver's license. I had everything done, and we still got hit to the tune of about $600,000. So I immediately, in true Jamie fashion, dove into the rabbit hole figure out what the hell happened. As you know, I'm a big proponent of e-closing, and during the drafting of the North Carolina statute, I had to learn a lot about third-party authentication, credential analysis, things of that nature. When this happened, it really hit home, and I did a deep dive, and I was shocked with what I found.
All right, well, let's get into it. What did you find?
So if you go to www.topfakeIDs.com,
That's literally their name, topfakeIDs.com.
that's their name.
Okay.
For $115, you too can have a North Carolina driver's license or any other state in the union, and they're pretty good. And apparently, what had happened is the gentleman that took our money had bought a driver's license at one of these sites and presented it to the bank, and the bank accepted it. Now, those IDs are designed to get you into a bar when you're under 21. $119 and you can steal someone's ID. And so, I dove a little bit deeper and I was like, there's got to be a problem. There's got to be something to it. And I downloaded a bar ID app on my iPhone and I started scanning stuff.
Like bar ID, like what the bouncers use, or like
Yep,
barcode
exactly. No,
bouncers use?
exactly
So
what the
because
bouncers
sometimes
use.
you see them with the black lights, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they have a
Yep.
swipey something.
Yep.
Okay,
We're going to
just want
talk
to make
about
sure I knew
this.
what you're talking about.
We'll talk about both of those.
Okay.
And so it just so happened that it was Christmas time. And it just so happened that my college age kids were home. And it just so happened they were having a party that night. And I went out in the other room and collected all the fake IDs. And there were 6 or 7 of them. And I scanned them. And every single one of them scanned. The barcode scanned. And so I called one of the vendors, and that night actually, and I said, dude, we have a big problem. And he goes, what? And I showed him. And at that, I started a deep dive. And it was a couple of weeks before MISMO. And so I was sitting at the airport during MISMO, and I was watching the people in TSA take IDs for like 20 minutes.
Okay.
Till one of them saw me doing it and came and had a little discussion with me about
What
it.
is it you're doing?
So it made me dig even deeper. And what I was trying to figure out is how I could have prevented that in my office. And I'm pretty security minded, and we're locked down pretty tight. So it really concerned me that if I got hit, anyone could get hit. Back in about 2008, we started putting 2 questions on our intake sheets. What was the color of your first car, and what was your high school mascot? And we did that just in case we weren't sure who we were talking with. I did not know that was called the third-party verification
Knowledge-based authentication.
or knowledge-based authentication
You're
or a
supposed to need
pocket
a computer for
question.
that.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but it's something that is still on our intake sheets, and it's something we still use. So fast forward to the whole e-closing project we embarked in 2017, 16, whenever it was, and got really involved and we started looking at different things, and I knew that this technology was out there. So after I got hit, went back, started looking at the technology, looked at what they're doing at the airport, and then I sat down and started my research on it. This is what I found out. Every state has a set of security measures on their driver's license, whether it's one like yours from years ago, or it's
We'll have to talk about that. I'll have to confess my sins.
or we'll talk about the new ones. Like I have a brand new one, and it's got crazy amount of security on it. So rather than just kind of tell the story around it, let's get straight to it. Every driver's license has a picture. It has ghost pictures. It has birthdays. It had driver's license numbers. It's got other things on it. On the back, it's got this fancy barcode. Okay. Now this driver's license was issued back in 21. This one's from 2021. Believe it or not, it's got a lot of security built into it already back then. And this was the driver's license we got hit with, was one like this. Okay. And so I sat down with it and I started reading about them, and it started giving me the insight into how to tell the difference between a valid driver's license and an invalid driver's license. Mary, are you a notary?
I am not currently, but I have been.
Okay. How long did you take to verify the validity of a driver's license when you are notarizing a document?
About as long as it took me to walk to the Xerox, copy it, and give it back to my customer.
So, about 30 seconds, you looked at it.
Yeah.
Well, what I did is I thought about how I did it, and that's how I did it too. And the only difference is when I was at the closing table, I knew how to read a social security number, I knew how to read a loan app, and I would ask them questions as we went, and I was verifying who they were and whether or not they were cognitively able to sign docs. And it's actually something that I learned in law school. And you just kind of ask questions as you go. So when this driver's license thing hit, I was like, okay, I got to train my attorneys how to do this. Something's not right. When I started looking at the driver's license, the first thing that everyone thinks of are holograms and barcodes. So on the front, hologram is when you move it in the light. And if you look, you can see the state of North Carolina right there by my chin.
Oh, yep.
All right. That's a hologram. And if you hit that with the black light, that really shows up. If you hit the back of a North Carolina license with a black light, it really shows up now. I've got a black light here. I can pull it out. Also on the driver's license is the year 1775, and it's right above my picture here.
Is that
And
also
17,
a hologram?
yep.
Yeah.
And then it's got another, see those little dots right there? There's another one.
Okay. Yep.
1775 is the year North Carolina declared its independence from the crown. And so that is hidden on every driver's license. So I started down that rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
But then once we got hit and the title companies wouldn't cover it, I got really upset. And I went back and dove a little deeper. Now, when you look at the driver's license, it just, you see 3 pictures. These 2 are called ghost pictures. This is the main picture. You can see the holograms, you can see the signatures, and that's what most people rely on. Now, if you really want to see if you've got a fake one, you go in and you check it with a light. And you see that North Carolina right there?
Uh-huh.
That's laser cut shape of North Carolina with the initials. Now, if you're in South Carolina, you've got a palmetto tree. If you're in Michigan, it says MICH over your face. You've got a Texas license, it's got a map of Texas on it, probably.
I do. I have the state of Texas.
Right,
It's like little laser cut.
right.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself is what we call a security instrument, or I'm sorry, a security measure. Now, give me 2 other security measures that you see on this other than a hologram, a ghost picture, or that
Ooh,
or what I
I
just
found my
told you.
hologram. So
Yep.
that's good. I've got a circle. Looks like maybe the seal and then a star in the middle.
Right.
I haven't seen that before.
Right.
There's also another little star down in the bottom corner, hologram. I would guess, Jamie, that by looking at my ID, and you made a good point. Mine is a little bit older. In fact, I think it was a renewal in 19 from the physical even earlier. But I got my star now that you need to travel, and that's good. But I would say that the way that it's blended it helps be anti-counterfeit. I think it would be trickier to produce some of those elements, but other than that, you have taken me to the end of my knowledge.
Okay. So,
There's my birthday. Sorry, I just saw my birthday.
where's your birthday?
It is right under my chin and it's a little bit raised. I had never seen that before, never knew it was there.
And it's raised. So run your thumb over it.
Yep,
That's
yep.
called tactile. That's a
Okay,
tactile birth date. Now, in North Carolina, we have the die cut holes
okay.
and we have a tactile birthday.
Yep.
And that's all we had in North Carolina on our old license. Now, most people will answer like this because what I like to do, and you know my sense of humor, is I like to go to a CLE or or some educational thing and say, okay, we're going to start out talking today with a demonstration. Now, everybody pull out their driver's license. How many of you are notaries? How many of you are lawyers?
Right.
90% of the room raises their hand. How long do you take to look at your driver's license, as a notary? I said, okay, you got 30 seconds. give me two security measures other than hologram or your barcodes. And nobody,
No,
nobody.
I would not have known.
I've done it 4 times this year. I did once with the North Carolina bar, once with the South Carolina bar, and once with the Georgia bar. And then I did it at a conference. I had nobody guess any of them.
Okay, well, I
And
feel better about my not knowing then.
right. So, and I turned and looked at our Secretary of State who was sitting on stage next to me, and I said, "Now, we have a problem." I said, "Because we're in as you know, Mary, I'm licensed in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, as well as a couple others. And those three states in particular are very proud of their status as attorney states.
Right.
And we don't need any electronics and we don't need any technology. And no one can ID a person better than a live notary." So when I asked this and I look at the Secretary of State, I go, "Now what do you think?" So that raised a lot of eyes. Now, recently, the driver's licenses have changed.
Okay.
And I don't know what I did with mine. There it is. And now this is the new North Carolina license.
Oh, wow.
And it looks like crap.
It's, yeah, it's a bit avant garde.
Well, it's weird because as you can see, it's real shiny. This one's not. Now, this one has what's called, and I can't remember what it's called, a lenticular date. Now, you see my birthday, right? Right? July of 70.
Yep.
But if you take it this way, it's my picture.
It's your picture. Ooh.
That's hard to copy.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
Now, the other thing is you see as I flip it, you see how it's raised and it's causing that shadow.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is,
I don't know what that
but it's
is
right
either,
here
but it must be
and it's
intentional.
and it's raised.
Uh-huh. Okay.
All right. Now, North Carolina has beautiful wildlife, okay? We have we have horses like that one above my head. We have wild horses.
Cool.
That's another one.
Okay.
And we have freaking geckos all over the place. But look at the gecko's tail. That's my name. And it's tactile.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Now, my signature is now tactile. This is tactile. And that is my initials backwards with my birthday on it. So to be just very blunt about it, there's no excuse for not being able to identify a new license or whether or not this is a real license. This particular license, this is tactile. This is tactile down here. My signature's tactile. That date is tactile, and that lizard is tactile,
Okay.
and
So they're
whatever
really
that and
upping the
whatever that.
number of tactile elements.
Yes, and then this right here is actually indented. So if you get called in front of a judge for malpractice
Right.
or for failing to properly ID,
Yeah, your notaries are under question, your seals are under question. Yep.
the first thing they're going to do is they're going to say, "Well, how did you check it?" And for all of those out there that are against Ron and Rin and IPEN and they don't want to use technology, they're at a severe disadvantage unless they know that. All of our platforms out there have technology that's old.
Yeah.
And that old technology is designed to do this driver's license verification, even
And
though
you're
it's
telling
old.
me some of those the better fakes will pass that barcode exam or that barcode swipe, and you'll just away you'll go, and you think you're perfectly good.
Perfectly good. Um,
My guess is $150 isn't going to get you a fake that could pass all of those tests.
I Not right now. Now, some
Yeah.
of them do have die cuts in them,
Okay.
like your state of Texas. But when you start getting tactile, it's hard because a driver's license is made out of Teflon, and Teflon is a single layer. And if you start messing with Teflon, it shreds, and so you can't play with it. So what's happened is, let's go back to the old driver's license. Now, Mary, you and I know each other from the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I saw you more than I saw my family
There were a few years there when that was
during the
brilliant.
TRID implementation days.
Yeah.
So let's go back to that wonderful point in time.
Okay.
In fact, let's go a little further back. I used to travel with NASCARs, and that was in the 90s. And I was notorious for leaving rental cars on the sidewalk and running through airports to get on planes as they were literally shutting the door. And as we all know, that all stopped in 2001. And and a lot of things changed. But one thing that didn't change was was one thing that we all do. When you go to travel, Mary, what's the first thing you do? You know you're going to NS3.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing you're going to do?
What do you mean?
What's the first thing you're going to
I'm
do
going
to
to
get
book
on
a,
that?
a plane ticket.
Okay. But what did you do about 10, 15 years ago that would help you book that plane ticket today or would make that plane ticket safer today? Do you have a frequent flyers number?
I do, yes. I
And
don't
when you
think about that making it easier, but you're right, it does.
So when you got your frequent flyer number, you had to give them your driver's license number, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your passport and your global entry and whatever else you had.
And they gave me an exchange, I think a known traveler number or something.
ATN starts with TT.
Yes. Okay.
So now you've got this situation where you got your frequent flyer number, and that's to help you get free trips.
Of course it is. No.
The travel industry runs on a production system called Sabre. Think of Sabre as the airline's Resware, RamQuest, Qualia, Soft Pro, whatever.
Okay.
That's what they run their business on. And once they've got your data in there, can they can track you. Not Big Brother track. Well, Big
Right.
Brother if they wanted to, but they could track you. And this is what I found out. When you go to buy a driver's license, I'm sorry, when you go to buy a plane ticket to NS3, you're going to probably call from your phone or
Right.
go in on your phone or on your computer. And you probably have a track record of where you log in from. Now, most of us don't use VPN, unfortunately. We do,
Yeah.
but most people don't. And if I'm buying a ticket from Charlotte to Pittsburgh and I'm in Guam or I'm in Palau or China, it's not going to look right. So they're looking at the IP address on a computer,
Yep.
the MAC address on a phone, and they can tell where you're at. So if Mary is traveling from Charlotte to Pittsburgh and she's calling from Palau, which is where all the money laundering happens in the South Pacific, they might call and find out what's going on. The only experience I have is when I went to change a ticket and I was in Tel Aviv, and they're like, "What are you doing in Tel Aviv? There's a war."
You said I'm
And
aware.
I'm
Yes.
aware of that. I'm very aware of it.
Yeah.
And so before you even buy the ticket, they checked one level of security.
Okay. So that's one. Yes.
So that's
And then
one
your
factor.
credentials that you validate once you are logged in that you're using that account instead of just some random.
That's two. That's your
Okay. So
second
that's two.
two.
Okay.
So then you go and you buy your driver's, or you buy um, your 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 ticket, and you go to your local airport, which is ORD, right? O'Hare.
Sometimes it is for us. Yeah.
Okay. So you get to O'Hare. What's the next thing you do?
I'm gonna. Well, I probably have checked in online already, so I will
Okay.
skip the counter.
That's three because they hit your driver's license again.
Okay, so that's three. That would count as three. So really, the next thing that I'm aware of is I'm handing my ID to TSA.
What about your boarding pass?
Okay, yes, that has some information on it.
But are you handing it to them?
Not anymore.
Right.
How come?
Well, you're not in the sterile area yet, and you've already
Okay,
gone through three levels of check. Let me throw one more thing in there. You
okay,
mentioned it earlier. If you have a KTN, they monitor that as well, and that's Homeland Security.
okay,
So now you're at TSA with four levels of security, and then they have you look at the camera now. Take
mm-hmm.
your glasses off and look at the camera. There's five. Then they put your driver's license into the Lidos machine, right? They stick it in and they look at
Yep.
that screen that you can't see. Well, I turned around, I stuck my head around and looked.
You would.
What it's doing is it's taking that picture, it's taking some other stuff we're going to talk about in a minute, and it's comparing it to what appears at the DMV. And
Okay.
if the
So are they
picture,
looking, they're looking at that picture? Are they comparing it to the picture they just took of you and bouncing both of those against the
they're looking
DMV?
at my driver's license picture
Driver's license.
and
Super.
making sure that matches the DMV picture.
Got it.
Or if I give them my passport, they go in and they will check the passports. And I don't know if you've seen the new passports or not, but they're quite a trip too. I don't think I
Okay.
have a
Talk
new
about
one.
those.
So you've got a passport now. This is my passport from back in the day.
That's what mine looks like. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, hey now.
Look at this one.
Okay.
You can see all the
Yep.
security on this.
Yeah.
This is all tactile.
Wow.
All of these. That's really tactile. That you could see into a piece of
It's
paper like
raised.
that.
You can really see it.
Look at that hologram on her face.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, that's
Okay.
complex.
So they've got this and they compare it, or they've got this and they compare it. This is the new stuff. This is the old stuff.
I
Now,
did not know that they were pinging against the DMVs to make sure the picture was the same.
yes. Or they ping against Secretary of State
Right.
or Department of State to make sure the driver's license. I'm sorry, to make sure that the
Pictures match the
passports match.
passport.
Um,
Aren't.
the other thing is you can have global entry. Now,
Right.
look at that. You can't even see my face.
Right.
It's got airplanes in it and all kinds of stuff. So the government's aware now. It's up to us to be aware. And again, on this, there are certain things that are tactile. On this one, there's just a patch right on the front that's rough. It's random.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing your IDs is important because if we're not going to use the technology, we got to do something. So let's get back to the airport. So the other thing that those scanners are doing is they're reading microfont. And microfont, if you take your driver's license and you put it under a microscope or a magnifying glass, a lot of these lines are actually information like your address. Sometimes they'll have the state motto. And so
Like
these are,
the things that make up the pictures are actually, if you zoom in,
yes, no, that make up the lines.
make up the lines.
Like this line, all right, you see where it says driver's license right there?
Uh-huh.
That's my address right there. That is actually made up of my address. The other thing is they've also, you're editing this, right? Can you see the seals showing up right there?
Yes. Yes.
There are seals all over this. There's one right, you see that one right above my head right there?
Yep.
Circle? That's the state seal. So
Wow.
they've gotten really good with these.
Well,
And
part of the trick is, I want to get back to the airport with you in a second, but part of the trick of, being a person that used to notarize thousands of times a day, as we all in this business have, when they would put these new protections in, they obviously don't advertise it because that's how people learn to make better fakes and forgeries, right? So we often didn't know. Jamie, I have carried this physical ID around since at least 2019, and I think again that it was a renewal then. So but at least 6 years, never felt the raised anything, let alone seen it, noticed it, nothing. So, and again, I wasn't a notary in that time.
right.
I was not paying as close of attention as I used to, but still, I think back to when I was a notary and I go, oh, they would make changes, security changes. And I never got a memo, a course on how to understand it. Nothing. It's just, you're sort of left to fend for yourself out there.
I saw a TSA guard thumbing my driver's license. He took his gloves off and thumbed it. And I looked at him, I go, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm checking to see if you have a tactile birthday. And so there are hacks out there. Is it going to replace this technology we have? No, no way.
No, but it's a belt and suspenders situation.
Belt and suspender. I would feel a lot better going to my underwriter or going to my E&O carrier and saying, yeah, I got hit by fraud and here's what I did. I had this, and this, because that's what happens. After you get hit with fraud, your underwriter comes in and they send a lawyer over or an investigator and they ask you questions. And How did you check that ID? And if you say, well, I don't know, I looked, it had a barcode and a star on it. The star doesn't mean anything. The star just means that it's TSA background checked.
Right.
You can buy a fake ID with that star
I'm
on it.
sure.
But now they thumb these things and they find, I mean, if you spend an hour with your driver's license, you'll be shocked with what you find.
I already am after just these few minutes. I've seen 3 hologram stars I've never seen before.
Right. Yep. I've got a compass rose on mine. But, and these are tactile. These are not things you can see. So it's really important. I mean, I think that the days of e-closing is here, but we've got to get the lenders to adopt. We've got to get the practitioners to adopt. And we've got to get certain government agencies to realize that it's not junk fees that we're paying for this technology. Because right now the problem is the government wants it faster, better, and safer, but they don't want to pay more.
We want it faster, better, and safer too.
Yes.
We just want to be able to still maintain some profit margin while doing it also.
Right.
Both
Right.
things have to be true. Sorry, go ahead.
So let's go back to the airport.
Okay.
Mary, how many times have you argued with the airline about not paying for identification verification?
Never.
Did you know they charge you for it?
No. Because it's all baked in, right?
You American Airlines frequent flyer?
Used to be. We've recently switched to Delta.
Okay. So when you used to cash in your miles,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't totally free, was it? It was $5.60 per leg. That is what the TSA charges for security clearance every trip. Now, you would think that people would be willing to spend $5 to have their driver's license scanned. You would think they'd be willing to spend $15 to have their driver's license scanned. You know, we're not dealing with a $600 airline ticket.
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with the largest investment of most people's lives. And it makes no sense that we're not using the technology. But until we do, I think it's incumbent on us as the title industry to know the driver's licenses.
Amen.
You can buy books that give you all the information. You can look at the internet at the DMV website. And what I would recommend is, go to your home state or any bordering states, look it up. Make a cheat sheet for your team. Buy a bouncer book. They make bouncer books and get that information, because if you're armed with that, I wouldn't have gotten hit. I had a Texas license and a Florida notary on a North Carolina property.
Expertise just wasn't there.
Right. And we've caught about 15 to 20 more of these by thumbing a driver's license.
Wow.
And looking at where the IDs are from. I can tell you the old license in Tennessee is very easy to copy. The old license in New Jersey is very easy to copy. I was from New Jersey for a long time until I turned 21. The technology's there. The technology's cheap and easy. But because we are so antiquated in the way that we do business, you've got to know how to do this. The airlines have been doing this 25 years.
Now.
And how many airplanes have hit a building since then?
Zippo.
And what's the fraud rate we're dealing with right now?
Right.
It's a big fix. It's an easy fix. And it's a way that you can set yourself out.
Yep. And I think what I would also do, Jamie, because I was thinking most of my business decisions, I frame up in, if I ever have to start an answer with, well, Your Honor, what I did was, and I think, again, belt and suspenders, I think I would have a company policy that says all the things we look for. And I would say that's what I routinely do. And then I think I would bake into my workflow a specific checklist of which items I checked on this deal, so that if this particular file goes to court 2.5 years from now, I can go, oh, well, here's our policy. Here's what I did every time. And specifically, here's what passed on this file. I mean, I just don't think that could hurt at all.
No. And, the ideal thing would be to go out and use one of the many platforms that are out there. Sure. And there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
And out of fairness, I'm not going to name any of them.
No, but they're good.
They're good and they do a good job.
Yep.
They're expensive sometimes to set up. And I know that most of our industry, small practitioners, What we're talking about, I put that policy in place. I have the cheat sheets. We've even gone as far as a set of questions. There's a set of questions that you ask.
Yeah. To your one of your earliest point, knowledge-based authentication (KBA) questions do not have to be electronically generated from a service.
And for the longest time, and this has changed, but when I used to go to the closing table, first thing I would look at is the 1001, the
Mm-hmm.
loan application.
Mm-hmm.
And I would find the driver's license. And I happen to know where you're from, Mary. And I bet you your driver's license, your social starts with probably a four something,
Close.
405. Okay. If you start out in Maine, it's 001. You get down to Florida and you're 28 to 29. And then you go up to Michigan and you're in the 36s. Indiana is 30s. Kentucky, Tennessee are 32s to 42s. So I would know by looking at your driver's license, I'm sorry, by looking at your loan app that you're from Iowa. And I would make a comment about Iowa.
Right.
Or I'd ask
And
if you're a
see if it.
Hawkeyes fan.
Right.
That's knowledge based authentication too.
Right. It is. Yes, it is. It's no different than I see that you don't have a wedding ring on, Mrs. And you're signing as Mrs. You're not stopping, but you're going further. Right. And it's more common for men to not be wearing it, but you just don't stop there. You ask some more questions nonchalantly through the closing. And yes, I had a closing with a current girlfriend signing in place of current wife. Just the little things you can get by observation and validation that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the bad guys will catch up.
Sure.
They will catch up.
But it's just so fascinating to yay, government understands there's a problem. Governments understand there's a problem and have gone in to fix it. But if you don't have the education where the rubber meets the road, it's a lot for naught.
I've been a notary for 25 years and we have a very active Secretary of State and she's very on top of things. Not once. I've gone to many notary conferences. I've never heard someone on how to read an ID.
No, I haven't either.
And, you know, and it's just something that it's part and parcel of our industry. And, those IDs can tell you a lot. And it's hopefully something that's going to cut down on the number of fraud cases we're seeing.
Yeah.
There's no way to guarantee against it.
Right. But you can up the odds of being successful.
Right. Another thing that I think, the practitioner should probably do
Mm-hmm.
is take the time and familiarize yourself with the laws surrounding driver's licenses. In the state of North Carolina, you have to have a full middle name. Now, I can't tell you the number of closings I walked into where the name on the settlement statement didn't match the name on the driver's license. And by knowing that North Carolina requires that, if you get a North Carolina license with a middle initial, So check your state information. Know what they're looking for, and don't rely on that. That barcode can be manipulated. There's a bunch of barcodes on the new cards, and they're all able to be manipulated. When all else fails, if they're not going to let you use the technology, if it's the bank, if it's the lender, if it's the parties, that's fine. Give yourself at least two security measures that on the document, whether it's this or this, and know it cold.
What your additional features are, and keep that with that file because if
Mary,
it ever comes back,
it doesn't cost a cent.
It's so free. That's what I love about it. It's so free.
It's free. And that way, when you go to one of my CLEs or somewhere where I'm speaking, just come up to me before I speak about it and let me know so you don't screw me up when I ask for two security measures, because
and if they knew before they heard this, that would be good to say, yep, you didn't teach me anything. I would high five that person.
Right.
But I think everybody's learned a lot.
Yeah. But that's just one of those free hacks that's out there. You can spend millions and millions and years of time and have all these wonderful SOCs and policies
As
and
you do.
procedures,
Yes,
you don't know that, you're going to get hit.
that's correct. Yep. I love it. It's good old fashioned gumshoe detective work, which is half of what this business is. And I'm just shocked that there isn't more awareness, which is why we wanted to get on the microphones today and bring the awareness out because, yeah, people are sitting out there accruing liabilities unknowingly and needlessly. So we wanted to help fix that. Thank you for going down the rabbit hole for us, Jamie. I
My
think you're
pleasure.
going to save some people a lot of heartbreak and the loss of a lot of money.
Hope so.
And we're going to see you at NS3 too. You are talking,
Earth,
you're
wind, and
doing
fire.
earth, wind, and fire, natural disasters in your business
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah. North Carolina's kind of had earth, wind, and fire the last few
Yeah,
years.
you've had it all. You've had it all. We will see you then.
Great. Look forward to it.
Jamie, thank you so much. That was such great information. I learned so much. Notaries everywhere need this information. So thank you for sharing it. And audience, if you would like to reach out and ask Jamie some questions, his email address is linked in today's show notes. Again, we'll be bringing you some of these real operational concerns. I nearly said tactile operational concerns to help support you in your business. So stay here with us. I'm Mary Schuster for October Research, where knowledge is the competitive advantage.